When I was in school, I think Form 1 or Form 2 or thereabouts, in the study of history, we seem to have concentrated on kingdoms during my days. Most of these kingdoms were in West Africa, Dahomey, Ashanti, and Ghana, and many others. The most interesting bit of it was the rise and fall. So studies of history will always give us the rise of kingdoms and empires and fall of some kingdom. The collapse of one entity and the resurgence of another. This aptly seems to apply to William Samoei Ruto. He was high, he seemed to be coming down. Indeed, William Samoei Ruto is a man under siege. Not only is his star dimming while that of Raila is rising, but is doing so in a manner that is very interesting. Beginning with the hustler narrative, which was a dangerous narrative. I was among the people who said this was a dangerous narrative, but continued to add in talk shows, on my video, in articles I wrote for the media. I said it was a bubble. And indeed, the hustler bubble came to burst. But William Ruto is a smart politician. He came up with the hustler narrative now in a capsule, and he called it bottom-up. Unfortunate for him, the bottom-up model that has been propelling him and keeping his star shining and high up in the skies is again being burst by Raila Odinga with the kind of programs Raila is talking about, and especially cash payouts, cash transfers for the vulnerable in society. The 6,000 that has been misunderstood by people who are so lazy, especially educated men and women in this country, not knowing this thing has worked very well elsewhere. The best example of cash transfers would be found in Brazil from the year 2003. So all these factors are combining to dim the star of William Samoei Ruto. But the most significant development that is affecting William Samoei Ruto in his dash for the presidency in 2022 is the ground. Because it has been said repeatedly that Raila and Uhuru may meet in Mombasa State House, Nairobi, they may meet in hotels, the billionaires may crown Raila, but that the ground is different. Vitu ni different kwa ground. More, they have said, Raila will not match Ruto because Ruto has the people and the God. Of course, let's leave God out of these things. You know, you can't bribe God to be with you. God is for all of us. So the hustler nation is a hustler of people. That Raila did not have people. Now, you can now see what I mean when I talk about decline. The numbers now seem to be shifting to Raila. And of all places, the 2 trips or 3 trips Raila has made on the mountain, Naivasha, Nakuru, Nyahururu, Laikipia, Murang'a and so on, have proved that the numbers are with Baba, as people like to call him. So now I want to concentrate on this issue of numbers. How does this affect William Samoei Ruto? In my submission, and a humble one at that, in a great way. Look at it this way. Ruto has had the numbers. And it has been argued, wrongly now as it can be proved, that Raila doesn't have the numbers. What does Raila have? He has the regional kingpins. He has what people are calling tribal leaders. Yes? That Raila would want to approach the election using the old approach, the traditional approach to Kenyan politics, where you go to regions and get the leaders of those regions, the so-called kingpins, vigogo, work with them, and certainly because of them, you penetrate that region and get the votes. Ruto was turning the tables and saying, that is different. We no longer want to work our politics along regions, along tribe. We want to work with the people. So then he will go somewhere and there will be huge crowds. And that will confirm that Raila can stay with the people as long as he wants. He can get the backing of Uhuru Kenyatta. He can get the backings of Atwoli, Paranya, and whoever else from the Western region. He can get the Peter Kenneth and the rest, Kafogo, Peter Munya, all those people from Mount Kenya region, Joho at the coast, Kalonzo, whatever, he can get all those people. But that Ruto will have the people. And to that extent, he will get the vote in 2020. Now with Raila evidently showing he has the people, he's the master of the numbers. What now is on the table? That's why I said spells doom for William Samoei Ruto. You had the numbers to yourself, or so you thought. So you had 100% of that as your approach. Raila had zero or little of that. He was relying on the kingpins. Now let's go to the game. He's now sharing the number with you. Let's just be fair to William Samoei Ruto. Say he has 50% of the numbers. Raila has 50% in terms of an approach. But Raila has 100% of the traditional approach. You see now how it's working. You thought he only had the regional kingpins, the Vigogos, the so-called tribal leaders. Now on top of that, he's also sharing with you the numbers. Where you are king, he's also there with you. Now, if it is 50-50, you need something to tip the balance, like a casting vote by the chair. So now, if you are 50-50 with Raila and you are William Samoei Ruto, with the numbers, with the people, with this new approach of getting to the people directly, other than through their leaders, then you are almost 50-50. Then Raila brings the other traditional approach that on top of having like you, the people, he also now has the kingpins. My friend, you are gone. You are not only gone, you are gone so badly, you cannot wake up. Let me demonstrate this. If, for example, in Mount Kenya region, William Samoei Ruto has the numbers and it was flying at around 80%. Now with Raila Odinga moving in and receiving the reception is receiving, the 30% we have always talked about as all that Raila needs to beat Ruto is already achieved. If we are going by the optics, and you can't rule out the optics. When Donald Trump pulled the crowds, people laughed it off in, I think, 2016. They say, forget about it. Those crowds don't vote. What happened? He won the elections. When Raila used to have the crowds, people would say, these crowds are just following this man, but they will not vote for him. They voted for him. And we know how this thing has ended. So crowds can be a good indicator of what's going on. So if crowds are an indicator, and we say, fine, mountain belongs to William Samoei Ruto. But the crowds are now telling us Raila Odinga can get 30%. On top of that now, you may wish to add the influence of Uhuru Kenyatta, however minimal. For those who dismiss Uhuru, can you dismiss him to the level of saying that if Uhuru told the people to vote for Raila, he will not get 10% of the mountain vote, 10%. Are you saying that? So if Raila on his own can garner 20, 25 to 30, Uhuru can bring something on board. And another 2, 3, 5% would be brought by the leaders, the kingpins, the heavyweights. Are you telling me, for example, that the support of the billionaires, the Mount Kenya Foundation, counts for naught? Are you telling me Munga, Mwangi of Equity? Are you telling me these two gentlemen cannot influence a few thousand votes for Raila? Are you telling me people like those? Are you telling me that the Equity guys, Munga and Mwangi, for example, have not been able to bring up small businesses to help people hold their hands to establish their businesses? Are you telling me they have not helped people in education? Not to mention the wings to fly, whatever it is, of Equity Bank. Are you telling me that will count for naught? That the many people who have had their children employed through James Mwangi and Munga and the rest of these people, at all this will count for nothing? That the top public service servants, senior public servants from Mount Kenya region, who are supporting Raila and Uhuru, are you telling me in their villages They have never taken children and given them jobs and promoted others. Are you saying all that will count for nil? Yes, indeed, it will not count for nil. It will bring in a few votes. Are you telling me, for example, that Atwoli, Francis Atwoli of Kotu, Wycliffe Oparanya, ODM guy and governor of Kakamega, Osozi, nominated MP, and all those other people from Western, powerful politicians, Eugene Wamalwa and the rest, are you telling me when they are campaigning, Boni Khalwale can manage to penetrate through them? Can you imagine a situation where Atwoli and Oparanya and the rest of these people are addressing a meeting in Kakamega? Would Khalwale and Washali address a meeting in Amalemba in the same town? Who would go there? Are you telling me those small fellows at the coast can manage to marshal votes against Joho and the Kingi combined? So you can see what I mean by the kingpins supporting Raila, and on top of that now he's sharing the votes. It is a really difficult situation for someone to tell me that with the numbers Raila is bringing on board, shaking the grounds in Eldoret, the mammoth crowd you saw in Eldoret, the wonderful numbers that were in Nyahururu, in Nakuru, places you would have imagined do not belong to Raila Odinga. And there's something else about Raila's crowds. They are organic, they are real, and there are ways of measuring a real crowd. Look at the signs of preparedness in the crowd. Look at the uniforms, colors. Then you can see, if you see uniform and a lot of color, you can see a lot of these people must have been, it's a pre-planned rally. Look at signs of vehicles, buses and lorries, people being ferried. But more importantly, as I noticed in Nyahururu, look at people walking the way we used to rush not to miss a rally in the 70s and 80s. Look at people briskly walking towards Raila's rallies. Very organic. And finally, to know that Raila's rallies are organic. There are no lines and queues as you would hear people being given money for transport to go back where they came from, for young men to feel happy. Raila finishes his talk, and what are guys left with? Music. One love. And he's going away. As people are left dancing the music. That is an indicator that there is a decline on one side, a rise on one side. It would now mean if William Samoei Ruto has to stand a chance against Raila Odinga, he must come up with an entirely new strategy. The hustler thing has failed. The bottom-up thing has failed. He must now re-engineer the politics and to come up with new strategies. But until that is done, and I don't see it being done easily, but he's a wizard, he could do it. Until that is done, we must all accept that for William Ruto, the significant noticeable decline as Raila Amolo Odinga goes up. So William's star is dimming as Raila's star begins to shine and rise.